Excellencies, cher Josep, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank you, Josep, the European Commission and the Secretary General of the UN for organizing and sponsoring another Brussels conference on Syria with all relevant actors, including civil society organizations. Mobilizing the international community and public opinion around Syria is more essential than ever after the sad commemoration of 10 years of conflict in Syria, the biggest human disaster in decades. It has killed hundreds of thousands, left half the population displaced and millions of Syrians countrywide, and in particular, those living in Idlib under constant threat of devastating violence. Let me commend once again Syrian neighboring countries for hosting millions of refugees. In the last 2 years, during our mandate as non-permanent member of UN Security Council and co-pen holder for humanitarian affairs for Syria, my country did all it could to safeguard the cross-border mechanism. My colleague, Minister for Development Cooperation, will elaborate on the humanitarian issue and the Belgium contribution. Crimes against humanity and war crimes, including the use of prohibited weapons, have been committed by the regime and its supporters, as well as by groups of the armed opposition. The civil war has given life to mercenaries and the monster of Daesh. If we ever want Syrian society to unite again behind a common national project and identity, these crimes cannot remain unpunished. Accountability for war crimes has to be pursued. Unfortunately, and in spite of the heroic efforts of Special Envoy Geir Pedersen, the political process under mediation by the UN under UN Security Council Resolution 2454 is going nowhere. The talks within the Constitutional Committee in Geneva have not unlocked the door to open negotiation on other essential issues such as detainees and the disappeared. It is therefore almost needless to say that we will not lend any legitimacy to the forthcoming presidential elections in Syria. Dear colleagues, the current deadlock is unacceptable. It is time to wake up and get to work through diplomacy with all those that have an influence, regional as well as external parties. Belgium would welcome initiatives to help the UN Special Envoy set up a new international format for the much-needed diplomacy and cooperation that can finally deliver a democratic and prosperous Syria for all of its citizens. Thank you.
Dear Excellencies, 10 years of conflict has brought us to the biggest humanitarian disaster of the century. Mobilizing the international community around Syria is more essential than ever. Half of the Syrian population has been displaced. The economy is in shambles. 13 million people are in acute need of humanitarian aid. The pandemic has made the situation worse. Half of Syrian children have known nothing but war during their lifetime. 2.1 million of them are out of school. Dear Excellencies, it goes without saying that Syria and the region will remain a priority for our Belgian humanitarian policy. Belgium has composed an extensive flexible financing package for 2021 amounting up to more than 69 million euro to respond to the global humanitarian needs. On top of that, we will also liberate 18 million euros to address the most urgent needs of the Syrian people in Syria and the region. But if we want to make sure that this aid reaches those who need it the most, we need access. Therefore, the renewal of the UN Security Council Resolution 2533 in June is vital. The Council members have a responsibility to those that rely on the cross-border aid for survival. A further limiting of cross-border assistance will cut off another lifeline for people already in dire need of assistance. Dear Excellencies, as we stand with the Syrian people today, we should do everything to avoid another dark decade. A whole generation grew up in war-torn situation or has been on the move as long as they can remember. Children are meant to dream, play, or attend school free from worries. They should not have their childhood robbed by war. Let us jointly pursue a better future for them. Let's make that happen.